Despite limitations of Indian education system, I strongly believe that Indian managers have competence to reach global standards. So what I am going to do in my presentation, I am going to share some of the difficulties that I have faced with dealing with foreign counterparts and how Indian managers can improve to make them globally competitive. Yes.
Just hit the down button on the...
Okay. So this is the company where we make pharmaceutical tubing in Baroda, and we also have joint venture for making ampoules and vials. Now in my presentation there are three limitations that I would like to address. That my most of the working experience has been in Western India, and as we have seen, there are different patterns of working in India, but I have enough international experience, so which I will try to share. And I come from a state where manufacturing is easy, that is state of Gujarat, where both workers and government are very friendly towards new ventures. First and foremost benefit that I suggest Indian managers can have is to improve global orientation. Some of the Indian managers still tend to believe in the past, and if you have seen what has happened worldwide and after India's post-liberalization, 15 years back we had not heard of companies like Google or Microsoft or Apple. 10 years back we had not heard companies like LG or Samsung dominating Indian consumer space so much. And therefore, Indian managers will have to work very hard in improving their global orientation. When it comes to mindset change, somehow we always believe that what we have been doing is correct. But if you look at the future, if you have to be successful, if your companies have to be successful in 2020, you have to do things differently and not you were doing 10 years back. That is sure reason that you will fail if you follow the same practices of the past. Indian managers follow short-term approach, whereas when Germans deal, they have always long-term orientation, and this is area where Indian managers need to improve. And some of the improvement potentials are mindset towards process standardization. Our people are happy at the end of the day if they have done firefighting in the factory. Whereas managers from the West will spend time in designing systems, designing processes. And this is where Indian managers must improve. We must look at adopting the best practices. It is not important who is right. Most of my ideas have come from very junior workers at the shop floor. Because they are there, and therefore one has to look for the best practices, whether they come from your colleagues or from foreign partners, but one should consciously make it. Move towards entrepreneurial mindset. All the people want to have responsibilities, but they don't want to take responsibility for the action. They want more and more authority, but they don't want to take action. And therefore, we will have to have entrepreneurial mindset amongst our managers. Other point is respect and recognize diversity. Now, this is very important when you are dealing with alliance partners or multinational companies. And each country brings different aspects of diversity. And here I want to give one example of respecting values. You know, when you deal with Europeans or people from America, they have tremendous value in terms of timely delivery of your products and quality-wise delivery of your products. Whereas typical Indian manager will build his relationship on his personal strengths. And therefore, we have to see from our different partners, what are their values in terms of doing business. Process of building trust. This is something which is ongoing exercise which you have to do. Sometimes in India, responsibilities are not clearly defined. We still feel that we have to go through boss and the boss, and therefore our processes are slow. And whereas when I work with my German counterparts, topmost person can go even to the 4th level and discuss some ideas. And which in Indian context, we always think that we have to go through my deputy and then his deputy, which takes away time and clarity of thought is lost. Other thing is customer relationship, which I touched earlier. Customer relationship for Indians is mainly revolving around the personal relationship, whereas Europeans and Americans will have very clear-cut key performance indicators, which will be in terms of quality, delivery, reliability. Mutual learning. This is something where we have to make conscious effort because our people are not using opportunities to learn from each other. What happens, our alliance partners, they quickly come to India and they are able to find out what is correct in the system and what is not correct in the system. Whereas we are not so open to learn from them, and therefore this mutual learning must happen. Many companies are moving towards identifying integration manager. Because what happens in typical alliance or when acquisition or joint venture happens, there are people involved in that process of due diligence and negotiations. And once joint venture is part, these people move away and somebody else comes, and then there is an ongoing fight between the two partners. Integration manager, which is the latest concept which Harvard Business Review is coming out with a lot of articles, that integration manager is a must whenever you have alliance or joint venture. Everyone has to work towards creating collaborative network. And in my last concluding slide, I will just mention that one has to have patience whenever you are working with alliance. It can happen only step by step. You cannot just make it, and sometimes we have very high expectations of doing things. And to conclude, I would like to take, most of us are married here, and what happens in typical marriage, I would like to link with this quote and how it can be linked with business and marriage. Business partnership is like marriage. Compatibility of partners is must. But what is important is how you deal with incompatibility. Like in marriage, it is important that with our spouse, we make sure that the incompatibility aspect is handled softly and properly. Similar way in business, in alliances and partnership, what is not important how you get along with each other. What is important is when you don't get along with each other, how you handle such situations and how you find a way which is mutually beneficial for business. Thank you very much.